There's a saying out here, every man has three hearts. One in his mouth for the world to know. Another in his chest, just for his friends. And a secret heart, buried deep, where no one can find it.
What is up, everybody? Jeremy Eisenfire here, and welcome to the channel. With the Shogun series finale in the books, fans finally got a look at exactly how this sprawling epic saga was brought to a conclusion. And today, we are going to take a deeper look at the finale, and in particular, the character of Yoshii Toranaga, and to determine once and for all, was he the hero of the story, or just another villain? Right from the beginning of Shogun, we find out very early on that Toranaga is a master strategist, often thinking 10 moves ahead of his enemies, and preparing for any given situation. Throughout the entirety of the series, we saw Toranaga employ a countless number of different tactics in order to stay one step ahead of his enemies, some of which that could even be considered morally questionable. In episode 1, we get a great allegory for the character of Toranaga and some of the actions that he will be committing throughout the course of the series, when he is discussing the characteristics of his falcon, and discuss the method of hunting for the falcon, how he will conserve his energy and wait for the perfect time to strike, a strategy that Toranaga himself will utilize multiple times throughout the course of the series. Like we see early on in episode 2 when the assassin comes for Blackthorne, and Toranaga conceals himself within Blackthorne's room under disguise, waiting for the perfect time to strike when the assassin enters the room. Toranaga certainly weaves many different threads throughout the course of the series while playing things extremely close to the chest, oftentimes to the detriment of the morale of his own men. But in the series finale, we finally start to see Toranaga's grand plan come to fruition, and his true motives start to be revealed, which has left many fans wondering if Toranaga was simply just another villain the entire time, or whether or not the means justified the end, with Toranaga seemingly wanting to unify Japan and bring a prosperous future. But as we take a closer look at the character of Toranaga and some of his actions, I do start to understand why some might think that he could potentially be another villain. After all, we do see Toranaga commit quite a few questionable acts along the way, like leaving Blackthorne behind in Osaka right after Blackthorne just saved Toranaga's life, knowing that this will most likely lead to Blackthorne's death. And some have even pointed to the death of Hiromatsu and how that was handled, and how his sacrifice may have not been necessary in order to convince Osaka that Toranaga was indeed giving up. After all, it was a pretty extreme act in order to convince an enemy that was most likely already convinced of Toranaga's defeat. Did Hiromatsu really have to die in order to convince Osaka that Toranaga would give up? Or could there have been other possibilities that Toranaga could have achieved this end without any loss of life? And then, of course, there is the death of Mariko. Although Mariko may have been on a suicide mission throughout the course of the series, Toranaga certainly did not waste any time in taking advantage of that to use her to achieve his own ends, sending her into the lion's den in Osaka with a plan that would most likely lead to her death. Was this simply Toranaga just giving Mariko the death that she finally wanted? Or was Toranaga just simply willing to sacrifice her life in order to achieve his goals? And then, of course, we get to the big reveal at the end of the series, how it was in fact Toranaga who actually burnt Blackthorne's ship at the behest of Mariko. And while this initial burning of Blackthorne's ship was done to save his life, it is the conversation afterwards between Toranaga and Yabushige that has me thinking Toranaga could potentially be a little more nefarious than we thought. Knowing that Yabushige is going to his death, Toranaga feels a little comfortable in revealing some things that he would not normally reveal to any other living soul. And when Toranaga admits to burning Blackthorne's ship, he states that one day, after Blackthorne has rebuilt that ship, he may have to burn it down once again, and suggests that it might be Blackthorne's fate to never leave Japan. And of course, could this just be what Toranaga thinks Blackthorne's fate is? Or is this Toranaga shaping Blackthorne's fate to his will? And this final scene between Yabushige and Toranaga is definitely one of my favorite scenes in the entire series, and I really love how Yabushige does not hesitate in calling Toranaga out, stating that he is no different from the rest of us inside of his secret heart, and proceeds to ask Toranaga if he really wanted to become Shogun the entire time. After all, Toranaga's grand final speech to Yabushiki on the clifftop did read an awful lot like a villain revealing his grand plan for world domination. And I really love the smile that Yabushiki and Toranaga share just before Toranaga gets ready to execute him. Almost Toranaga smiling back at Yabushiki saying, "Yes, you figured me out. I am just like the rest of you." Or perhaps the smile was just a simple wink and a nod to Yabushiki regarding his previous statement about why he should tell a dead man the future, which of course is the same line that Yabushiki said to Omi about Toranaga earlier in the season when Yabushiki thought Toranaga was close to death. Overall, I think the character of Yoshii Toranaga was incredibly complex and had a great deal of layers to him. Yes, at times he has done things that were morally questionable, and at times he has committed great heroic acts. So I guess I leave that question to you, the comment section. Do you indeed think Toranaga is just simply another villain? Or was he simply doing the best he could with the hand he was dealt in order to bring forth a more prosperous Japan? But that is going to do it today for our character breakdown on Yoshii Toranaga. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit a like on your way out and consider subscribing to stay up to date on all of our future content. And as always, I want to give a big thank you to everybody out there for watching, and a huge thank you to all of the channel members, and we will see you on the next one.